I've heard people saying both that Washington needs to sign an edge and that the Commanders need to sign a running back before training camp. So I thought, Danny, we could dive into both of those things here and just look at who's available, see if there's actually any options that we like. So starting with running back, I got to say the market is barren when it comes to the thing that we've been saying we want, which is speed and somebody who's shifty and complements or fits on first and second down that can kind of make big plays and possibly hit a home run or two. That guy's not out there. Your best available running backs based on money made last year, Jamal Williams, who's 30, coming off of a run with the Saints. Gus Edwards, who was with the Ravens and the Chargers, who's a power back, who's 30, goal line guy. Jeff Wilson, who's had all kinds of injury issues in Miami. He's 29. Nick Chubb is intriguing to me because he's been so good when healthy. He's now 29 years old. And then a couple of guys I've liked throughout their career that are pass-catching backs, Naheem Hines, Amir Abdullah among them. But I'm looking for the speedy back that you and I wanted this offseason, and that guy just isn't in free agency right now.
It's not there. It's they're good players, productive players. Every time Gus Edwards has gotten the football consistently, he's kind of like an Alfred Morris type character, right? Nothing sexy about it. He's thumping, he's going downhill. J.K. Dobbins is a free agent. Every time
he's more injury prone than Nick Chubb.
I was gonna say,
but at least he's young. He's 26.
I know it seems like he's 50 because he's you've heard so much about him and the constant injuries, et cetera. We had a really nice season last year, but that's not something I can bank on. Now, it wouldn't break the bank to bring him in and just to see, but again, that the guy that you and I are talking about is not in free agency, I don't think. And that's kind of the deal. The speed back, that's a draft thing to me. Because what happens is you get into the league and you get banged up, you get beat up, you get hit. It's the nature of the position. You are, when you come into the league as a slightly undersized scat back, pass catcher, whatever, you got to pass pro, you got to deal with punishment. You have the normal slate of nagging injuries that beset running backs, and the occasional super mutant, an Adrian Peterson or a Derrick Henry's immune to it. But the rest of the mortals, it wears you down, and you're no longer that guy. It doesn't take very long for that to happen, too. So to me, I don't know that answer is in free agency right now.
Yeah, it's easy to say they got to go sign a running back, but of the options that are actually available, nothing's all that interesting. Doesn't mean I wouldn't do it, but my expectations would be tempered and frankly, just minuscule. And to your point on getting banged up and losing some of the speed, the guys that are available, the injury histories are long.
Oh, yeah.
Sheets of information. I mean, Nick Chubb, you mentioned J.K. Dobbins, Cam Akers, who had a couple of Achilles, I'm pretty sure. Maybe one was an ACL, but he is only 25, about to be 26, been in the league for 5 years. That's a name I might roll the dice on. He was like a 4.48 guy, but it's mostly 4.5, 4.6, 40-time running backs. If you were going to sign one of these guys, who would you bring in to compete in training camp and try to catch lightning in a bottle from?
Jeff Wilson's the name that comes to mind for me. Part of that rotation in Miami where he's been added and dropped 17,000 times by everybody's fantasy team because, one guy got hurt, Mostert gets hurt, and then maybe he gets a chance. He's caught some passes in the past I don't think would break the bank. But again, this is a flyer. I don't see him supplanting anybody that they would have, but a guy that I think at times has displayed a little bit of a burst.
I get it. He was a 4.6 40 guy before the draft, which is about as slow
Which, by the way,
is
a long time ago because he's been in the league for 6 years.
Yeah. Now, it might have been a bad 40 time. It might be faster than that, but I'll bet you he's not anymore. Nick Chubb at the right price, I actually would have interest in because I think at his ceiling, he would be better than Brian Robinson on first and second down. And he only made, $2.3 million or so this past year, coming off a pretty serious injury. So maybe at 29, you could get him at a Eckler-like rate and just say, hey, we're going to give you some carries on first and second down to try to keep your career alive. I'm not overly interested. I guess if you're going to hold me to the fire, I'd say either Chubb or if they wanted to go a little bit younger, maybe Akers with his injury history and see where that gets you. The conversation's not that different on the edge, although there are a lot more guys that have produced recently. They're older. You're bringing the baggage here is you're bringing in a really old player probably. Von Miller's 36 and is no longer the defensive player of the year that he once was. Matthew Judon's going to be 33 years old. Is a couple of years removed from being an impactful player. Preston Smith is 32. His last couple of years with the Packers and the Steelers, respectively, he's been mostly non-existent. I like Za'Darius Smith the most of the expensive guys from last year that made $10+ million. He's going to be 33 this football season, but he's at least most recently helped and been a guy that looked like he could get you 10 sacks, maybe. So I think there's more edges available maybe that might be able to pressure the quarterback than running backs, but they're older and there's plenty of baggage with these guys too.
100%. I mean, they're bigger names that you recognize, right? Guys with a lot more deposits in the bank than the free agent running back.
That's
crowd.
The way to put it.
Right?
There's like more past stardom available.
Yeah, Von Miller's a Hall of Famer probably, entering year 15. Matthew Judon has had some really big seasons. We know Preston Smith there. Darius Smith has been a double-digit sack guy. When you go down the list, Brandon Graham is on year 16 or 17, I think, who's been a thorn in our side for years. He's played for a couple different teams now. So I don't know. To me, there's nobody that's that exciting. Honestly, the guy that is the most intriguing to me is probably Preston Smith, which would be a little bit odd, but the circle of life, I suppose, right? Let him bounce around a little bit. I think he's big enough, long enough, pain in the butt enough to help set the edge a little bit. I don't think he's a world-class pass rusher. I think he's solid in that regard, but that's kind of what we're talking about here. This is the picked over leftovers, not a great marketplace for those guys. And now maybe Ty goes to Washington when it comes to culture, fit, place that et cetera. But nobody would really be one of those, wow, I'm so excited. It's kind of, I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah, and to your point with Preston Smith, it was 8 sacks 2 years ago with the Packers, right? 4.5 sacks this past season as he started with Green Bay and finished in Pittsburgh, fell off a bunch. But I think he could help you against the run. And maybe that's now what they have to really prioritize and care more about anyway is, all right, there's nobody out there that's going to help us go get 10 sacks, so we don't need to try to chase a ghost. Who can get 5? Who can get consistent pressure one-on-one and maybe push the pocket a little bit on passing downs, and who's going to be actually helpful and a legitimate contributor against the run? And maybe Preston Smith with his length, could be that guy. I wouldn't hate that. And to your point, nobody here left in the organization really knows him all that well because it's all new people running everything. But as a fan base, we remember the player, the person he was, and he's a guy that'll fit in pretty well, I think, in this room. But let's open up the phones for you guys at 800-636-1067. If you were going to make one more solid veteran free agent addition, either a running back or an edge coming out of the draft where you weren't really able to address either to the extent that a lot of us were hoping,